Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who we learn this truth from whom we do well. Peace, salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you we say shalom. Coming to you back with another Saturday evening class in the GMS Dallas Younger Brothers. And today what we're going to be going into is how this truth, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding looks foolish unto the world. Because they haven't been given the spirit to really understand what this truly is. Because really, this is going to be the only way out of the upcoming destruction, out of all the plagues that are about to be sent by Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai. And all the people in the world, the 2/3 of our people, these heathens, they're about to find out whatever backup plans they had, doomsday prepping, stocking up on food, ammo, preparing carnally is not going to lead to salvation. And we're about to go into all these different accounts, how ultimately knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, obedience unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai delivered our ancient forefathers. So first we're going to go into how David escaped that I think was the Philistine king by using wisdom. Acting dumb, acting like he didn't know anything. But ultimately he escaped that, the king by using wisdom, by lowering himself, by humbling him down. Not telling the king, oh yeah, I'm about to be the king of Israel. No, he humbled himself down, and ultimately he escaped that king. And we're about to go into different accounts that shows how our ancient forefathers escaped all those judgments. That they were delivered ultimately because they were obedient unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai. So we get that 1 Samuel 21.
Where do you want to start, bro?
Verse 10.
Okay. This is the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 21, and I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, "And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this David, the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? And
So pretty much, the king already knew, okay, this is David, the one who was known in the land of Israel, and known for being a mighty man. And now the king is like, okay, damn, now why is he acting dumb? Or why is he dumb all of a sudden? But David was using wisdom. Read verse 12.
Verse 12, it says, And David laid up these words in his heart, and was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. And he changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scrabbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard.
So using wisdom to escape the situation that he's in. Because if he was to try to be mighty, try to take matters into his own hands, that it will lead to his demise. But that's why he had to lower himself down and use wisdom and understand, okay, I'm in this situation. I'm gonna act dumb. I'm gonna use wisdom. I'm gonna be Clark Kent and not be Superman in that situation.
If I could say too that the Philistine too, they knew they had said, because when you read verse 11 it says, and the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this David the king of the land? David wasn't the king yet. Saul was still the king. But even the Philistines realized that the way David was moving and how he was maneuvering, that he was really the king behind the thing. It's almost prophetic in a way. Just off of his discretion and off of his might. The way that he was able to win wars and whatnot.
Right, and it even goes when we read that verse 12, it says that he was actually sore afraid. So just saying, we know David was a mighty man. Like you made mention, he slew tens of thousands, right? And that's all, ultimately made possible through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, firstly. But David wasn't, what do brothers say? We're not these hardcore dudes. What's it called? I'm trying to think of the phrase that brothers use. Like these just badass, macho. Yeah, we ain't Billy badasses, macho, But ultimately, what this led to was, again, him moving wisely. You're making a smart decision in that moment, right? Did you want to continue?
Kind of.
Okay. Back in 1 Samuel 21, I'm sorry, and verse 14, it says, Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see this, the man is mad. Wherefore then have ye brought him to me? Have I need of madmen, that ye have brought his fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?
Yeah, so the king's pretty much, why are you bringing me to this madman? Is it this, lunatic? David was using wisdom, but it was ultimately to escape that king. So the king would be like, okay, he's harmless. He don't mean no harm, and that's how our people look at this ministry today. But ultimately not Esau Edom. He doesn't look at this ministry like the rest of the world does, because the whole world looks at the prophets out on the highways and byways like it's no big deal. But this is about to be, the thing is about to show on planet Earth that is going to be the top wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is going to lead to salvation, lead to deliverance, while the rest of the worldly wisdom, all the different ideologies that people are involved in is going to fail them.
Can I grab something from chat for you? Just real quick, and you can speak on it if you want. I just asked ChatGPT, can you expound on the foolishness of preaching mentioned in the Bible? Right, and it says the phrase "the foolishness of preaching" comes from 1 Corinthians 1, verse 18 through 25, and it is intentionally provocative. Paul is not insulting preaching; he is exposing how the Most High overturns human standards of wisdom, power, and credibility. Right, and we see that all throughout the scriptures. The Lord has a record, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's a status quo, if you will, of constantly making the wisdom of this world look foolish when it's all said and done. Right, it might thrive for a period of time. It might have its moment of infamy. It's 15 minutes of fame, if you will. Right, but it doesn't. Ultimately, what triumphs everything is the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we have, right, through the Holy Spirit. Right now, we're in a state where it looks foolish. These guys out there on the highways and hedges in 30, 40 degree weather, right, in a snowstorm, right? They're looking, people look at us as just these crazy dudes, degenerates, like bums. Even amongst the Israelite congregations, the bum camp, so on and so forth. But it's through this message, through the gospel, ultimately something that's so far fetched from this current reality that's going to ultimately manifest itself and be established. Us having faith in that is profound, right? But you got it, bro. Just trying to bring out that point.
We could go into the next account, the walls of Jericho collapsing. Ultimately, the reason why they fell is because the Israelites were obedient to Yahweh Shai. They didn't take matter into their own hands. They ain't say, "Oh, we're gonna do this instead," and not just march around the city. No, they trusted in Yahweh Shai and did what the Lord commanded them to just blow the trumpet, chant the walls down, and that's what the prophets are doing in these last days as well. But to the world and even these other Israelite camps, it looks foolish because they call it the GMS, the faith-based Israelite camp.
Right.
Claiming that y'all soft, y'all not being carnal. But ultimately, we're not supposed to be carnal. We're supposed to let Yahweh Shai do the work. He's gonna work in due time because Jacob is impatient. He wants to take matters into his own hands and try to take Esau even down carnally. But for the Jays that do that, there's already been accounts that ultimately fell. With the Sakari back then during the time of the Roman Empire, they tried to take matters into their own hands and ultimately ended up not prevailing.
Right, because that wasn't the message, right? And because I have this pulled up, Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. It goes into there's a time for everything under the sun, right? A time to do this, a time to do that, a time not to do this, a time not to do that, right? So you got to look at the times that you're in, right? Yahweh Shai said, "I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves, be therefore harmless as doves and wise as serpents." You see, so there's a particular way that we have to operate here in Babylon the Great, right? Eventually, it's going to come a point where we're going to have to take that hard stance, but Romans the 13th chapter. We follow the laws of man. We follow the ordinances that the Heavenly Father set up, even though we know that these are our enemies, right? But ultimately the message is not that of taking up arms for yourself. It's waiting upon me. Zephaniah 3 and 8 goes into that. Wait ye upon the Lord, for his determination is to gather the nations as a prey and to pour upon them his indignation. Right? What you got, bro? Where's that account? That's Joshua, right?
Yeah. This is you want to start at the top of Joshua 6?
What we do?
Joshua 6:1, it says, Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times. And the priest shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when they hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him. And Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said unto them, Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said unto the people, Pass on, and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of Yahweh Shah. And it came to pass, when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Lord, and blew with the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the reward came after the ark, the priest going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, Ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth, until the day I bid you shout, then shall ye shout.
That's kind of like, or that's how the prophets are today. We're not gonna take matters into our own hands. Try to do our own will. No, ultimately, Yahweh Shah already gave us the blueprint of what to do. To go out there on the highways and byways and chant Babylon down. To go preach the word, not to go to different countries and preach to Ham and preach all over the world, to build lands and like ICKs, pepper spray each other in the eyes, and stuff like that. No, Yahweh Shah, he told us to go out there on the highways and byways and blow the trumpet, to keep it simple. And that's the same account in Jericho. Because ultimately, while they were compassing around the city, it made it looked foolish to the were they Cushites or Philistines, Canaanites? Yeah, it looked foolish to them. They're like, man, look at these Israelites marching around, chanting down, blowing the trumpet. What is that going to do to our great wall and city? And that's how majority of these people look at this ministry. They see the prophets out on the highways and byways preaching, and it looks foolish. They're like, oh man, y'all just speaking. What is that doing to the world? How is that changing the world?
Right.
Well, ultimately, this is how this world is changing, because of this truth. The devil is being exposed, being Esau, even so-called white men. The Jake is finding out the true heritage, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And now prophecy is at the forefront of everybody. Now you got these red pill channels talking about prophecy, talking about World War III and the dollar collapsing, letting you know that this ministry, there's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is changing the world in these last days.
I got something for you, bro. You can speak on it if you want to. This is Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 9 and 10. It says, Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. Right? And that's the trumpet. You know what I'm saying? The words of Yahweh Shah that we get through the Holy Spirit. Verse 10, it says, See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. You know?
Kind of that's what the prophets are doing now, because they've been given the Holy Spirit, the true knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to go out there and prophesy the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, to prophesy the downfall of Esau, Edom, and tell these heathens that they're going to go into slavery. You know, and only the true prophets are going to be doing that, because ultimately they don't care that it looks foolish to the world. You know, we look foolish out there. It may look foolish, you know, we're spectacles of the men. You know, we're out there on every highway and byway in every major city. You know, people drive by and they're like, man, what is this? You know, they're confused. You know, they don't know what it is. You know, they may either be intrigued by it, or they may just, you know, drive by and chuckle and then keep going on their lives, not knowing that this is what is changing the world. You know, starting with our apostles, elders, bishops on down. You got it, y'all.
Yeah, Scripture talks about how we made a spectacle, you know, amongst the people. You know, so this is something that looks crazy, looks unfamiliar. Other Apostle Kabal always says that you have to be through the Spirit. You kind of have to be a little crazy.
Yep.
You know, to be in this thing, you have to be willing to really look crazy to people, man. And we do. Well, you had brought up something that was talking about the walls of Jericho, so I just wanted to grab this. This is and it's the same thing is happening here right now today, because it's a spiritual thing that's going on. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:8. I'll just straight to the point. It says, "Then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." All right, so that's what's happening right now, as the spirit of his mouth, talking about the prophets, we're speaking the words of Yahweh, and it's shaking this kingdom to the core. That's where all these things are happening, and all of these uproars and upheavals that are going to soon start to be pushed out. You know, everything is going really just kind of haywire. There's a lot of confusion. Why? Because the walls of this place through the Spirit are being shaken, they're being destroyed and consumed, because the word of the Lord is being preached, just as, you know, we read here with the wall of Jericho.
I got something for you. You speak on it. 2 Corinthians 2 and verse 14 through 16 in the NLT, it says, "But thank the Most High. He has made us his captives and continues to lead us along in Hamashiach's triumphal procession. Now he uses us to spread the knowledge of Hamashiach everywhere like a sweet perfume. Our lives are a Hamashiach-like fragrance rising up to the Most High. But this fragrance is perceived differently by those who are being saved and by those who are perishing. To those who are perishing, we are a dreadful smell of death and doom. But to those who are being saved, we are a life-giving perfume. And who is adequate for such a task as this?"
Kind of pretty much for majority of our people, this truth, this ministry is cutting them, you know, it's condemning them. Because that's why majority of our people, they don't want to click on the videos, they don't want to really walk up to the camp, because they're hearing their judgment. You know, but to the elect, they're gonna want to hear this word, they're gonna want to hear this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because they know through the Spirit that this is the only way out. You know, it is Yahweh Bashin Shai, it is Yahweh Shai's blood. You know, there's no other way out. You know, not through carnality, not through keeping the laws, statutes, commandments 100%, like these other Israelite camps like to push. You know, ultimately the only way out is Yahweh Shai. You know, is his death, burial, resurrection. You know, Lord willing, his blood, you know, covers us, but you know, that's the only way out. You know, is Yahweh Shai.
Can I read verse 17 for you myself? It says, "You see, we are not like the many hucksters who preach for personal profit." And when you look up that word huckster, it says one who sells or advertises something in an aggressive, dishonest, or annoying way. We're just giving you the 100% truth.
Right.
We're just telling you what the scriptures say.
Freely given, free to receive.
Yep, exactly. It says, you see, verse 17 again, 2 Corinthians 2 and 17 in the NLT, "You see, we are not like the many hucksters who preach for personal profit. We preach the word of the Most High with sincerity and with Hamashiach's authority, knowing that the Most High, the Heavenly Father, is watching us."
Yeah, so keeping it simple. You know, preaching the word, not trying to make a merchandise out of the Lord's house like these other camps are doing. You know, just going out there and freely giving out the word. You know, and ultimately, that's what the true prophets of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai are going to be doing in these last days. They may look foolish to the world, but ultimately, this is the true wisdom of the heavens, not no harlot houses, Christianity and Buddha, Islam. You know that has no weight on the world. That hasn't changed the world. You know, Esau even really hasn't came down on Christianity and these other ideologies because it's not a threat to this system. The only true threat is this truth because it's exposing who Esau even is exposing who the true Israelites are, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And to Esau, that's a threat because now he's feeling that squeeze. Now he's being under that inquisition of how much of a devil he's been throughout the four corners of the earth.
I got some This is First Ezra, chapter 3, verse 35. It says, "Is not he great that maketh these things? Therefore great is the truth, and stronger than all things. All the earth calleth upon the truth, and the heaven blesseth it. All works shake and tremble at it, and with it is no unrighteous thing." Just showing you the power of the truth. Truth is more powerful than any kind of false theology you could bring up and conjure up in your mind, you know. And truth stands at the end of the day, you know. And that's why all these lies, this establishment that we preaching against is gonna fall because it's built off all these lies, all these fallacies, you know. That this is the manifest destiny of you know the nation of Esau, Edom, you know. We know the truth that the Lord's track record is true, you know, and that he's not forgotten the righteous. See.
We go back into that account of Jericho. Chapter 6.
Yep, Jericho. Back in Joshua 6 and verse 10 it says, or verse 11 it says, "So the ark of the Lord compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. And 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually, and blew with the trumpets. And the armed men went before them, but the reward came after the ark of the Lord, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And the second day they compassed the city once and returned into the camp. So they did 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priest blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai hath given you the city, and the city shall be accursed, even it, all they that are therein.
Can I add something real quick? Because understanding that this is that second generation coming after those that wandered in the wilderness, that generation which was ultimately killed out because they were murmuring. They were pretty much disobedient, right? So what the Lord has given us here in Joshua is a generation that is obedient, right? And what can happen through that obedience, right? Ultimately going into getting our inheritance, our land, right? Receiving of the things that was promised unto our forefathers, right? And that fast forward all the way to today, there's been a falling away, right? Most of our people, they don't know who they are, right? They can't receive the things. They've been spiritually blocked off, right? They're unreceptive to the to these things, like what was brought out on Thursday when we came together, and did our sit down. But then you have the elect remnant who are going to fall under that obedience and receive the message and ultimately be like, well, the Lord wants this. This is it. This is what we have to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're seeing right here. Because they could have been like, well, why won't the Lord? Imagine if they murmured, right? Why won't the Lord just do it? Why we gotta wait 7 days, right? Why we gotta do all these specifics, the trumpets and taking the Ark of the Covenant first? Right? Why we gotta do all that? Why won't the Lord just do it for us right now? And that's the same rhetoric we hear from our people today,
right?
Right? why if there was a God, why would he do these things?
Mhm.
You see that rhetoric all the time, but the God you're talking about is allowing a child to get molested. Why are these things happening?
Yeah.
You see, they have a problem with the will of the Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
The elect won't.
Yeah.
But you got it, bro.
Beautiful point.
Probably continue reading on. Verse 17.
Yep. It says, Joshua 6:17, and the city shall be accursed, even it, and all that are therein to the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you, in any wise, keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves accursed. When ye take of the accursed thing and make the king of Israel accursed, and trouble it, but all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Lord, they shall come into the treasury of Yahweh. So the people shouted, and when the priest blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and ass, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the two men that had spied out the country, go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman and all that she had, as ye swore unto her, and the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brethren, and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred, and left them without the camp of Israel.
Talking about Rahab the harlot.
Yeah.
You can read that in the second chapter. Ultimately, a promise was made unto those two spies, right? And Rahab that if pretty much anybody she had within her home, if you will, for lack of better words, within the wall of the tower, they would receive a protection upon the coming of our people, upon the voyage, if you will, the conquest that was already that was beginning, right? They would receive a hedge of protection. Anybody outside of that, they would die. So that was ultimately a covenant, if you will, that was made between us and Rahab.
Yep.
So showing that you can there's going to be some favor upon heathen, right? There's going to be particular heathen that are just like they're on point, so they're going to receive a particular mercy, but there is still what's written in Revelation, that 1,000-year period, where they're going to have to get recompense for the tribulation that caused us as a nation. But you're going to have favor on some heathen.
Yeah, just like the way it is now, in captivity,
Exactly.
Yep.
I was going to pull a precept going into the statement that you made previous, going into how the Most High is going to gather up that small sanctuary. It's in Abu Shah, if I may. But I'm going to have the brother read it for me. This is Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 18 and 19. It says, I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom reproach of it was a burden. Because just like the brothers spoke about how that generation before, didn't adhere and had to fall away. All right, but the Most High is going to gather up, pretty much the elect. Could you read that again? Zephaniah 3:18. It says, I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. So Most High setting the division. Read 19. Zephaniah 3:19. It says, behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out.
You know,
And if I may, when you get that word halted, it basically goes into like somebody who's like maimed or like injured. You know what I mean? Because that's what we represent.
Yep.
You know, like during Yahweh's ministry, he was healing the blind, the sick, casting out devils. Spiritually, that represents all of us. Because we were all, and we still are. Shit.
because the Most High, he's not coming to those
Right.
that are in the know. He's coming to those that are downtrodden.
Yep.
All right, and that it's gonna go right into the lesson
Yep.
that we in.
Yep.
You got it.
And then driven out shows that it's going to be Israelite foreigners receiving that grace and mercy. It says, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame.
So how about Shemel Shai is going to give us fame, you know, because after Yahweh Shemel Shai gets his glory, he's going to give glory unto the elect, you know, and the ones that are out here signing and crying for all the abominations that are done in the midst of it. You know, but so like it.
Oh, no, you're good, bro. Beautiful point. I got a quick one. You can speak on it. 1 Samuel 15 and 22 in the NLT, it says, but Samuel replied, what is more pleasing to the Lord? Your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering the fat of rams.
Kind of so keeping it simple, you know, doing what Yahweh Bashim Shai told us to go out there and do, go out there on the highways and preach the word, to help seal the elect, you know, to not teach what these other camps are doing, you know, talking about salvation for everybody. You know, we're out there for the elect, the 144,000, the 1/3, the large multitude, and that's it. But we still got to go out there and get the blood out of our hands, you know, tell wicked Jake their judgment, tell the heathens their judgment. You know, and only the true prophets of Yahweh Bashim Shai are going to be doing that, because these other camps, they're not obedient unto Yahweh Bashim Shai. You know, they're preaching out of their own heart, for filthy lucre's sake. You know, they're doing unity camps, you know, teaching the MOTB is sin and all manners of madness. And Yahweh Bashim Shai is not dealing with that. But ultimately they're doing that because they don't want to wait on the Lord. You know, they want that fame now, they want that notoriety. But Yahweh Shai hasn't even received his fame and glory on the planet Earth. You know, so what makes these 2/3 Jakes think that they deserve fame and glory right now? You know, no, ultimately Yahweh Shai has to receive his glory first upon the planet Earth. And in due time, he's going to exalt his elect. You know, he's going to place that crown on their head, but it's all in due time.
I mean, add to that because it speaks to a lot of these camps out here too that are, you know, pushing, you know, things that are contrary to what Yahweh Shai spoke, and that precept that he just brought out. You know, I think it goes back in with Saul, you know, dealing with the Edomites, and you know, the Lord gave him specifics on what to do.
Yep.
You know, he didn't follow that. You know, so ultimately, one day, you know, he's told to kill the land and, you know, kill everyone in the land and slay cattle and all that. And what did Saul do? He went about his own way. You know what I mean? And ultimately, but that's what Jake is out here doing, specifically with a lot of these camps. They're straying away and they're going about trying to find their own vain glory. They're looking for that notoriety, you know, being surrounded by, you know, man pleasers and trying to get that glory first. You know, so that's why these things are a constant reminder just through the Spirit. Which will add that.
If I can, I'm sorry. That's a heavy point that you make, because that particular account with Amalek, that shows you that obedience is like preventative. Like it prevents a lot of things from even happening in the first place.
Man.
You know,
Beautiful
like,
point.
you know, hypothetically, if he would have been obedient to that, Amalek would have been eliminated. Which means that
it's heavy.
So much prophecy, but we know things had to happen.
Right. It all happened from 6 to 10.
You know what I'm saying? But it goes into what you're saying, because like Jake thinks that you just gonna be able to get this truth whenever, like for however. They don't understand that you're gonna have to obey, or your opportunity. There is no opportunity to sacrifice after this word goes out. Yahweh's already sacrificed himself. So this word is going out. You either get with it. The sacrifice has already been made.
Right.
You know. So you know.
I got something if you want. Okay. Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 7, it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes, fear the Lord, and depart from evil.
Yeah, so doing what Yahweh Bashim Shai commanded us to do, to go out there to feed the sheep, to help seal the elect, to walk his walk, to the best of our ability, keeping the laws, statutes, commandments to the best of our ability, and putting off that old man, leaving this world behind, because we know that we're about to have to walk away from this world very soon. And the elect are going to be prepared for that. Not trying to lean on their own understanding, not trying to, to form a plan, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, to escape, upcoming doom. No. Ultimately, the elect are going to trust in Yahweh Bashim Shah. They're going to trust in His will, regardless of it. They don't know how it's going to play out. They're just going to fully put their trust and faith in Yahweh Bashim Shah.
Yeah, one more quick one for you. Proverbs 14:12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Got it. Proverbs 14:12 again. It says, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
Yeah, so these other camps, these carnal Israelites claiming that they're going to have to form militias and so on and so forth. Like what happened with the ISUPK, General Yohana, he was playing a snare in the trap. They asked him, what would you do, with the Black Panthers if they came up against you? He said, he's going to put them down. And that's a snare in the trap, because ultimately, if he was to answer him the right way, he would tell him, man, I'm gonna wait upon Yahweh Bashim Shah. I'm not gonna do nothing out of my own actions, out of my own power, because the elect know that the power doesn't come from them; it comes from Yahweh Bashim Shah. It comes from the heavens.
I got one. Here's an account, that we can relate to today, because this would be very foolish unto the world. And Yahweh Shai had to give an example to one of his disciples. This is Matthew 8, and I'll start from verse 21, and it reads, and another of his disciples said unto him, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Yahweh Shai said unto him, follow me and let the dead bury the dead. And, to any individual that's outside of the truth, that would be like foolish to them. Like, man, he won't even let me bury my father, but not understanding that they're, in a dead mind state already. So likewise in this truth, that's how a normal Jake, look at us, when it comes to this truth. Like, why y'all doing these things? It don't make sense. What do you mean you don't want to, come to the Christmas party? Or, things of the world, So when we operate in wisdom, those things are foolish. And it was just amazing to me that Yahweh Shai used one of his disciples to bring that understanding out too. Yeah. Where it was like, oh, it's all about the work.
Yeah. It seems unprofitable. Because there's no immediate return upon the investment.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been given the vision, and it's like once we heard the word,
mm-hmm.
and it's settled within our spirits, our souls, it was like it just took a hold of us.
Right.
Well,
and
that's the only
that's
thing
why
that makes sense in its entirety. It doesn't have a hole in it.
Good point.
Was you gonna say something already?
Oh no, that was it. Yeah, I was just in agreement.
You get that 1 Corinthians chapter 4.
Yeah, this is 1 Corinthians 4:10. It says, we are fools for Hamashiach's sake, but ye are wise in Hamashiach. We are weak, but ye are strong. Ye are honorable, but we are despised.
And the world is fighting the true prophets of Yahweh Bashim Shah. And that's how you know who the Lord is dealing with, by those who the world hates. The scripture says, it is not you that they hate, it is we. And that's what the world hates. They really hate the Yahweh Bashim Shah. But the elect, they're going to acknowledge the true prophet. They're going to acknowledge that the Yahweh Bashim Shah sent them. Even though it looks foolish, it may look foolish to them. It may look foolish to the world, we're out there on the highways and byways preaching the word.
Right.
With the garments on, they stay with like shower curtains, dresses and so on and so forth, they say, I just be cursing and yelling, but they was really to stay and hear and listen, and it would make sense, it would click, but they don't want to hear that because they don't want to put this world behind. They think that the wisdom of this world is going to continue on forever. Right. This current life, this current lifestyle, not knowing this got to be done away with. Like the scripture says, this current world is about to pass away. You know, so what manner of conversation should be in? You know, the elect are going to be in the right conversation, in the right walk. Right. Moving in the correct spirit. While the rest of our people, the 2/3, the wicked of our people, they're just going to continue despising his word. You know, they're going to try to get it when it's too late. Right. You know, when famine of the war hits, but by that time point here, they're going to realize, damn, that was it. That was the only way out. And you know, they let it slip by. Can I get one for you?
This is Ezekiel chapter 33 and verse 31. It says, "And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them. For their mouth for with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness." You know, I'll read the next verse. It says, "And lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that hath a pleasant voice, and can play well on an instrument. For they hear thy words, but they do it not, for they do them not."
Yeah, and that's Jake. They only want to tune into the videos whenever it's a curse out session, right, to the black woman or to a controversial topic. But when it's about the true breakdown of the scriptures, you know, Yahweh Shai, you know, history, you know, faith, that they don't tune into that. But let it be a black woman curse out video, they gonna get like triple, quadruple of the views.
Right. Cutting the white man.
Yeah.
Slice.
Yeah, those outlandish titles. The Edomite gets his head cut off, county square.
Blood spewing in the streets.
Stuff like that.
Jugular.
Because they see it for filthy lucre's sake.
Right.
They see it for entertainment. You know, and if you want entertainment, you can go out there and view all these people, you know, UFC fights and all that. That's entertainment. This here, this is only for the elect.
Right.
Right? No one else is going to properly discern. You know,
It's deadly serious.
it's deadly serious.
They don't have a grasp on the severity of the word that's going out, the message that's going out, the doctrine, right? And it's going to cost them. I don't know, was it Mormon? So I had first grade.
Yeah, that was one on that.
Okay. Proverbs 18 and 21, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." Right? So either you have a message that's going along with the world, and you know, they go along and get along spirit, that kumbaya, why can't we be friends, face ass, right? And then you got the message of the prophets, right? Which Jeremiah 28, right? The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against kingdoms of war and of evil and pestilence, man. The times we're living in is not the nations coming together in harmony. No, we see, if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world, you can see very well that there's friction between the nations, man. This is part of the end time signs, man. Right? So the message that's ultimately the word that's going out is, as Priest Yaswala has brought out the 2 Thessalonians 2. Right, this word is ultimately heralding in the end of the coming of our Lord Yahweh.
Yeah, and the majority of our people, they don't see that. They don't see that this is signaling the downfall of Babylon the Great, of this current empire. Our people don't look at it that way. They look at it as no big deal. You know, those crazy bugged out guys on the highways and byways. You know, they're out there every Tuesday and Friday. You know, brothers during the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And they look at it as no big deal because they're so used to seeing it. But when the famine of the word is, that's when they're going to realize, oh shit, you know, where are those guys that have been preaching about the Bible, preaching about doom and gloom, you know, and they were talking about this was going to happen. That's when Jacob's going to want to take it serious, and it's going to be too late. You know, they're going to realize that, you know, they messed up. They should have took heed to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, even though it looked foolish. You know, they're going to realize that, you know, whatever wisdom of this world they had, philosophy, PhD, you know, so on and so forth they had, it's not going to deliver them. It's not going to answer all the questions that they have. You know, why is this happening? You know, why is a FEMA truth at my door? Right. Why are there tanks in every city? And why is the economy collapsing? They're not going to have the answer to these things, but the elect, they're going to have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to keep them stable. Because this wisdom is what's going to trump, you know, all this worldly wisdom.
If I may add, you see that happening with the Northern Kingdom right now. It's ICE situation. These floods are kicking in the door on Issachar, you know, in these different nations, and they without. Now, this just goes to show you ultimately that these people heard the truth. Otherwise, these things wouldn't be happening. So we're in that time, you know. So these things are only going to ramp up. We know what's happening here is just a precursor that's going to spread all throughout Babylon, but people are going to be left without answers, man, in that day, man. And we see it happening right now. The Lord is giving you small examples, just what's going on with ICE in this whole situation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This is Proverbs chapter 14:3. It says, "In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them." Just like how we was talking about the wall of Jericho situation, you know, and they was commanded to shout and make a certain noise, and it would destroy that city. And that's that noise that we making too, you know.
That's right.
How that those lips, the things that we say, the words that we say, it's gonna preserve us. You know, a lot of these other people, they're speaking foolishness, you know. Like, man, how the Lord dealing with y'all? How can this be of the Lord? Why would the Lord have, you know, America be established just to destroy it in a way? Like, you know, a lot of people's own words, their own pride is destroying.
I think it's 24 or 26.
The things they think. Yeah, the things they think too.
24. Do 22. 22.
Hebrews 13:15. By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to the Most High continually. That is the
I read
fruit
for
of
you.
our
Just
lips,
let
giving thanks to His name.
Can you make sure? Reading on that?
God. But to do
It is
good and
finished.
to communicate, forget not. For with such sacrifices the Most High will please you.
Yeah, I read it.
Obey them that have the rule over you, and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls.
Yeah. See, a lot of people don't think that there's individuals that have rule over them, you know, through the spirit of Yahweh. See, and you watching over people's souls, but you know, they can care less. But it's like you said, to the communicating, the praise of our lips, you know, that's a sacrifice that's gonna keep us. You know, that righteous sacrifice, like Abel, you know. It's enabling us to live, you know.
In the NLT, I'll just finish off the verse. Hebrews 13:17, obey your spiritual leaders and do what they say. Their work is to watch over your souls, and they are accountable to the Most High. Give them reason to do this with joy and not with sorrow. That would certainly not be for your benefit.
And that's the problem we have in the nation of Israel with the other camps. You know, most of their leaders fall under the umbrella, you know, of One West, where they had, were taught under the teachers like, Priest Ariah and, I believe, all of the leaders before, Apostle Tahar. And now when you look at everything, how it's filtered down, everything's been watered down, everyone is broken off and branched off, like you say, filling their own belly. Mm-hmm. Now they have diluted the truth, and our people have become even more wicked now because of that. What you just read there about not taking heed to your teachers, your leaders, man. And that's very important in this truth. That's part of being humble.
Mm-hmm. I got some. This Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. It says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest unto me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children." Because these people hate knowledge,
Right.
These people, they'll literally say ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
Like, I believe in the Bible, but I ain't trying to really do all that. I'm trying to go to church and shoot at these hoes, on some simple shit.
Right.
Niggas will love they'll love to read the scriptures about, a man can have more than one wife.
Yeah.
But then it comes to, you gotta go out and, change your appearance by growing out your beard and actually not, wanting to do nothing with another man's wife, or changing your conduct, praying, turning toward the east, calling upon you, how about some outside,
Not even.
niggas want to sing, niggas want to to say the longest prayer at Thanksgiving. You know, with their family. They want that glory.
Right.
So we gonna let them have it because you niggas want it to be stupid, man.
And then at the end, they're just like, let's watch some football.
Yeah.
That's the main thing to them, you know. Just the world shit. The shit that comes with
Right.
the world.
Yeah.
They're really fixated on that. And whatever little time they might, when they feel like it, that's when the Heavenly Father gets the crumbs. Right?
Yeah.
That ain't how it's supposed to work.
Right. Jake wants y'all trying to revolve around him,
Right.
Yeah.
as opposed to the other way around, man. And it just don't work like that.
It's too little, too late. Niggas want to worship the Lord when now they talking about how we gonna get out of America, you know? Like how we gonna what's the escape plan? My parents asked me that the other day. They was like, "Yo, what's the escape plan if we had to leave America?" Damn. Say y'all niggas don't know. I know what's going on. Y'all don't know what's going on.
I got a
So
precept.
they're gonna escape through the spirits when the missiles come.
Yeah.
They have to give up the ghost.
Yeah.
And we out here then.
This is 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 22 in the NLT, and it reads, "It is foolish to the Jews who ask for signs from heaven, and it is foolish to the Greeks who seek human wisdom." Verse 23, "So when we preach Hamashiach was crucified, the Jews were offended, and the Gentiles say it's all nonsense." In verse 24, "But to those called by the Most High to salvation, both Jews and Gentiles, Hamashiach is the power of the Most High to them and the wisdom of the Most High." You know,
That links with Revelation 12, or I want to say 12. And they overcame by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, because that scripture mentioned Yahweh shot crucified. You know, that's a covering. That is the escape plan. Like with the Elders Live, they went into the brothers that watched the Elders Live last night. They talked about plot armor. You know, like how like a protagonist in the movie, he's got that plot armor because you know what I mean? Because he's important in the script. Like he's just protected from crazy situations. He just can't die. That's that escape that it talks about in 2 Peter, the first chapter. Entrance being ministered unto you. You know, that comes from that covering.
Right.
Preaching Hamashiach crucified.
Right.
So that's the escape, but people don't want to hear that. Really, there's no escape. The only escape is through Yahweh Shai.
And it gave both examples of what we're talking about. You know, the people of the world, and then even people know they're Israelites that's in the camps, because it said both Jews and Gentiles.
God, can you read verse 25 on that?
Come. Verse 25, and it reads, "This foolish plan of the Most High is wiser than the wisdom of human plans, and the Most High's weakness is stronger than the greatest of human strength."
God, can you read verse 26?
Verse 26, and it reads, "Remember, dear brothers and sisters, that few of you were wise in the world's eyes and powerful and wealthy when the Most High called you."
God, so you know that going back into that worldly wisdom, you know, the PhDs, what they call that, cemetery schools.
Yeah.
Cemetery, yeah.
Seminary school.
They really put on that dead mental frame.
Yeah,
The bosses are hard coding that quite.
Yeah, and people look at that like it's wise, you know. But whenever they see the men of the Lord on the highways and byways, they look at it like, man, what do y'all know?
What's your letters?
Where's your degree?
Yeah.
Where your building at?
Yeah.
Y'all got a build, yeah, y'all got a church. This is the church. We always tell them the same thing.
And all of that to say because whenever I was in the world, you know, just me speaking about myself, I didn't go to a college. You know, I didn't go to any higher level of education. You know, so to the world, I'm a dumbass. But being in these scriptures, you know, Yahweh Shai is blessing me with wisdom and understanding, which is better than any understanding of this world. What did Theodore Roosevelt say?
Yeah,
He say,
understanding of the Bible is better than any college education.
yeah, so we have the best education on the planet Earth. All right, and we're trying to give it to, you know, people openly and freely, you know, but yet they're trying to say you're dumb. You don't have anything tangible that we can see.
Right. That's why, you know, when you go into like the word degree, a lot of these women have these degrees,
Yeah.
PhDs. we go into that word degree, it literally means D is down and green means grade.
You got downgrade.
It's really a downgrade, which is interesting because the 26th president of the U.S., Theodore Roosevelt, he said that because why? He knew that ultimately these women basically traded in their salvation, all right, for a downgrade. They pretty much downgraded themselves.
Yep.
All right, and a lot of these men too, you know, and holding on to the wisdom of the world.
And it's a part. It's like a piece, kind of a
Yeah.
degree or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like one degree, like it's literally like somebody gave you a piece of puzzle out of the box. Now you think you the shit. You the shit.
Right.
You got a piece of puzzle.
Yeah.
Where are the other 99 pieces?
I got the precept to back you up for what you said about yourself.
And if I may say, because you talked about the 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt, you know, well, the 47th president said that your degree don't matter. So,
Y'all know something we don't?
like real shit.
Well, here's the precept backing you up.
Come.
This is John chapter 12, verse 32, and it reads,
Yep.
and this is Yahushua speaking, and I, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. And that's the foolish, foolishness of this world when it comes to this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay, exactly what you was explaining. You have a lot of people, quote unquote, according to this world, have masters and doctorate degrees and, speak eloquently. I'm a park parenthetically right here and speak to you people. They go into all of that, but then, they don't know they butt from a hole in the ground when they come to, getting up out of here, man, getting on the chariot. So, just backing you up, when you're, the hope for chosen and elect, all you have to do is what Yahushua told you to do, lift him up,
Yep.
I got some, bro. You can break it down. This is 2 Chronicles 15. I'm going to get 15 and 16. It says, I'll get straight to the point. And it says, the Lord.
What was that again?
2 Chronicles, I'm slacking. 2 Chronicles 36, verse 15.
Oh,
16.
come.
Quiet, bro. And it says, the Lord, the God of their ancestors, repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on the people at his temple. This is in the NLT, by the way, slacking. But the people,
If
point.
I could say too, because a lot of times even the prophets were sent doing things foolishly, like Jeremiah. Being butt naked, prophesying.
With the
And Hosea, right, his wife, and his children, and other various prophets.
Who was that? The eat dumb?
Yeah.
Even John the Baptist, like,
Yeah.
his ministry was they was looking at that like, man, this nigga all of this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
eating locusts and wild honey.
But they didn't realize that was going to be a representation to them. Like the sackcloth that we wear is a sackcloth that these people, they're putting on right now.
Yeah.
The whole world is about to start mourning. And we see it. We see you see niggas crashing out.
Yep.
The TikToks.
Yep. Crying.
Because time is up. Yeah.
They understanding their money not saving them.
Yeah.
How I make 150,000 and I can't buy groceries and they just mad, man.
Yeah.
This is back in 2 Chronicles 36, verse 15 and 16. And the Lord their gods, and the Lord the God of their ancestors, all right, again, letting it be known that this is a family affair.
Yep.
Repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on his people and his temple. 16. But the people mocked these messengers of Yahweh and despised their words. They scoffed at the prophets until the Lord's anger could no longer be restrained, and nothing could be done. All right, so, and that's just pretty much what we want to now. Now, this account is when, of course, Jack was going off, and the Lord said Babylon in there onto it. And are we not in these times right now? Okay, we are literally in the daughter of Babylon right now. The Lord is great, as Ezekiel talks about, a sword is sharpened. So the Lord is great to let loose this devil, Just to add on to that. The Lord is set up. Why? Because ultimately he has compassion, all right, on Israel as a whole, but he knows ultimately, there's only that remnant that was chosen, all right, to come back here, this message. All right, and that's really, that's plain on tables.
Kind of, we can finish off on these last two precepts. If you go back to that 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and 27 in the NLT.
Okay, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 27. And it reads, instead, the Most High chose things the world considers foolish in order to shame those who think they are wise. and he chose things that are powerless to shame those who are powerful.
Yeah, so we don't have an army, a militia. We're not being carnal out here. Yet Edom wants to come down upon us because he sees this is the greatest threat to his system. The prophets chanting down Babylon the Great. But to the world, it looks like, man, those guys are bugged out. But to the elites, we're the most dangerous thing unto their system.
And that's why they paid so much money to keep this information from us. All right, but it's not about what they can do. It's what Yahweh Shemel Shai did. All right, he's the one that gave everything to us so we can be elevated to that level. Okay, and I got a precept. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10, verse 21. It says, "For wisdom openeth the mouth of the dumb, and made the tongue that cannot, the tongue of them that cannot speak eloquent." All right, because Yahweh Shemel Shai is the reason. Even though like some of us have a speech impediment, like Moses. Moses had a speech impediment. He couldn't speak, openly to a large crowd. That's why Aaron had to be his speaker. Right? He had to be his spokesman. But it's the same way. Wisdom has opened up the mind of the elect. So they can speak eloquent all these words, all these lessons that are going across the whole earth. It's being speaking eloquently. So everybody can properly discern. What you got?
It's Acts 4:13. It says, "Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahushua." Wow. So yeah, this is just like going off your point. This is just evidence that we've been supping with Yahushua. The eloquence of our speech, the ability to break down the parables.
Read that verse 28.
God. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 28 in the NLT, and it reads, "The Most High chose things despised by the world, things counted as nothing at all, and used them to bring to nothing what the world considers important."
Yeah, so the majority of the world, they don't consider this ministry, this truth, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding as the most precious thing upon the planet Earth. They look at it as nothing, like of no importance. Not knowing that this is the lottery in a sense. This is literally the only way out of the upcoming destruction is through Yahweh Bashim Shai. And all the wisdom of the world is being brought down. It is being torn down. Whatever philosophies that people had that they believed in, it is crumbling. It's not keeping them stable no more. Whatever they thought was going to keep them stable in these times, now they're like, damn, this isn't it. And the only thing that's going to keep the elect stable in these last days is going to be this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, like it says in Isaiah 33 and verse 6. But that's all I had. Y'all brothers.
I want to touch on something that Malak spoke about. It's kind of like how when you said if something happened, in Babylon the Great, where will you go, or how we get out of this? And if you ask anyone on earth, outside of the elect, they got all these brilliant, bright ideas, except for what the scriptures tell you. Hey, we're gonna get a boat, we're gonna move over here, and each and every one of them will tell you that, we it's the rapture, but they let you know they don't even believe in it because they trying to escape. If you knew that's what it was, you have confidence, and it don't matter.
Right, or rapture means to be like to be seized.
Yeah.
To be taken. You know what I mean? Not to willingly just go.
Right.
Yeah, so that lets you know they don't even trust in what they believe in because it wouldn't matter. You're gonna be delivered. So it amazes me, when it comes, especially our people. I always like to just focus on Jake because I ain't worried about the heathen. But when it comes to Jake, that's Jake mindset.
Yeah.
I have something real quick. It's Ecclesiastes 9 and 16. It says, Then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard.
So what was that?
Ecclesiastes 9 and 16.
Man, here.
So yeah, that's our wisdom is despised, though. You know, we poor in physical, but we rich in spirit. So, but people don't listen. And that's okay. Because it's all gonna be heard. It's all gonna be heard through you know, when these actions, when these plays, when they start to hit, you know, as they did.
If I may add, I don't know, just real quick, I don't know if you, I'm pretty sure your brothers have seen it. There was this I think it's TikTok video where it's this girl, but now they like added other people. There was this girl, I think she was more white, looked like, and she was talking about like why, she just had a question, and I know it was the spirit of the Lord. She was like, why are black people hated so much? She was like, you know, I just feel like there's something different about these people, you know, and you know, like if they're so dumb and so ignorant, then why don't they get loans? If they're so this and they're literally not a threat, then why they put so much energy in holding these people back? And she was just like, and I just feel like, and she said, she was like, I just feel like, what if I feel like these people know, certain powers that be know that these people like, what they have like some kind of superpowers. You saw the video I'm talking about, right?
I saw it.
Even them Israelites that Trump is bombing over there, and because they uprising against, you know, the nation, the quote unquote nation of Israel, you know, the small hats.
Right.
A lot of them know who the people are. You remember that video that was out like a few years ago? Where there's a lady in a barren land. Black people, please come back to the land. That's why you know, Trump trying to keep that on the hush. They begging for us to come back into the land. When scriptures say the whole earth groaneth and waited for the manifestation of the sons of God, like that includes the people too.
Right.
So the people know. It's just the people in America don't know.
Right.
The Israelites in America is dumb about, you know, where they come from.
And the leaders that's over there, because, you know, the heathen, they still benefit off of our downfall. So they would love us to be back, but at the same time, it's like we know what that means.
They would love us to be back to continue to have power over us. So where we
that's what I'm saying.
Still entertain y'all, we still do this and that for y'all.
But we wouldn't treat y'all like the Edomites.
Right.
You know, I got a precept, but you know, just going into how even though all this wickedness is going around the four corners of the earth, them telling us that, you know, we are no people, you know, and going back to the scriptures, how we have power through Yahweh Shai. This is First Maccabees chapter 12 verse 9. It says, therefore we also, albeit we need none of these things, you know, these distractions, you know, money, you know, all the bullshit that's being, you know, perpetrated upon the earth. It says, therefore also, albeit we need none of these things, that we have the holy book of the scriptures in our hands to comfort us. All right, because Yahweh Shai gives us comfort. All right, especially in these times that we're in, we see, you know, us, Lord's will, that we are the watchmen. We see all the holy hell going on across the whole corner, all four corners of the earth. We see what they're doing to the food. We see what they're doing to the water. All right, we see that without Yahweh Shai, we can't be saved. All right, so we have the holy books of the scriptures to comfort us. You know, knowing that salvation is near. All right. But it's like it.
You guys had anything else? That was pretty much the point. You know, we pray that this will edify and lesson unto the elect. We want to give all praises, honor, and glory to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who we learned this truth and who do it well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you we say shalom.
Shalom.